Steve Alcorn's a fine investigator. What he's doing with this Chris dude, I have no idea.
I gave her cigarettes for our anniversary one year.
There you go. That's fucking romantic.
She didn't like gifts. I said, well, I want to get you something. What do you want? Just give me a couple packs of cigarettes. So I wrapped them up and gave them to her.
Yeah, have some lung cancer.
You got a dead Bigfoot that's just been shot, hanging upside down in a tree. Though Meldrum was also careful to note, it's not a course about Bigfoot.
It's a course about Fozzie Bear. Who's Fozzie Bear? Some say his father was half grizzly. Nobody believed he was real. As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a Muppet. To me, that was better than being president of the United States.
They upped my meds last night, so anything's possible. We're laughing at a story about dead people. I can't explain it, but it sure makes me feel like the spirits are happy.
I mean, I guess you could say it might have been somebody's hand moving real quick, but it's not a fucking ghost.
The jury's still out on that.
See, your hoaxes come at you with smiles. They come as your friends.
Pope Francis says doggy heaven is real, so your dog has a soul.
Ah, so now the dogs can hang out with the pedophiles.
Not Benedict, Francis, Pope Francis.
No, I'm just guilt by association, Steve.
Yeah, that's probably true. That's what they say when they talk about me and you.
Yeah, there you go. Hiya, folks, and welcome to the Fortean Slip, episode 75. This is the, this is my Steve doing the news impression.
Yeah, you nailed it.
I know, I was pretty fucking spot on, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
This week, I don't have a fucking witty name for this shit. We are going to talk about the show, my newest addiction, passion. Not really, but I don't understand why I can't not go upstairs when I go to bed and turn this shit on. Ancient Aliens. And, you know, don't get me wrong. I have a kind of love for it. And I kind of talked about it the other night when I did the show with Fred. We were doing alien abductions. And I kind of went into it a little bit. But I think that they bring up a lot of good points. But I think that it's so agenda-driven that it loses its steam because of it. Steve?
Oh, yes. I agree completely. Yeah, you were just doing such a good job.
Oh,
Chris,
yeah,
I'm
no,
gonna let you continue and just do the whole show by yourself.
Yeah, because we all know that if there's one thing that, you know, is great for radio, it's dead fucking air.
When I went to broadcasting, classes in college,
And failed
the first
horribly.
No, actually,
Dropped out.
I got an A. I got an A in that class.
No. Did you finish college?
No.
Survey says.
Ding, ding, ding. No. But the first thing they tell you is dead air is Satan. So
it can be used to your advantage. I have seen radio hosts use it to their advantage. I'm not that fucking adept, Steve. But, yeah, no. So I've been having this issue where I go upstairs and I turn on, because I fucking got Netflix. And then I'll, just fucking look through and see if there's anything new. Of course, there never is, really. There is, but there isn't.
No.
And I always settle on fucking Ancient Aliens. Because, as I was saying on the show the other night, about the fourth or fifth time that I hear Sukalos or fucking Childress say that it had to be fucking Ancient Aliens, I'm just toned out. I've tuned out the show by then. I don't remember watching anything else. I'm fucking just done.
But Childress, man, Childress is an expert on this stuff. So if he says it's aliens, it's gotta be aliens, right?
What?
And Tsoukalos is like some sort of, I don't know, PhD or something, isn't he? So why wouldn't we believe these guys?
What?
I'm just saying.
What?
Huh?
No,
Where?
No, listen. Hey, I don't give a fuck who's got a PhD, who doesn't, who just published a fucking magazine, whose last name was Daniken and wrote a fucking book. I don't give a shit. Here's the thing. To say that it could possibly be aliens is one thing.
Right.
They're not saying that in the show. That's the thing that kind of bothers me about it. To say, well, it could be ancient aliens. All right. You're right. It could be. The more likely thing, in my opinion, is that there was either a civilization of man that rose and fell, that was worldwide, or, the ancient alien theory goes in there, or, or another type of race rose and fell. We don't know if that happened. We don't know if that was possible.
What if people were just smarter than, in those days than we give them credit for? I mean, I think that's a lot of it too.
That's completely possible. I look at the amount of time that it has taken us in our period to advance technologically. It's been a blink.
Right.
And then you look at the whole of human history. And you mean to tell me that no other humans ever anywhere could have possibly had the chance or the opportunity at any point in history, our history, which we don't even fucking know all of yet, by the way. We're constantly finding fucking places and they're like, oh, whoa, Willie, this one predates, the other stuff. And, they're like, what? So we don't really even know. Our history is constantly being rewritten, being reinterpreted, being re-understood. So to say that it is definitely one thing, that's where I have the issue with it. Could it be one or the other? Yes. And I think Occam's razor tells us that it was more than likely beings right here on this fucking planet. Not
more than likely.
Not fucking ancient aliens.
You do a great Childress.
Fucking Christ.
I don't know, Chris. Sometimes
if you look at the tools they were using.
But time and time again, it's been proven that with the tools that they had available to them, it could be done. I mean, I've seen a lot of the shows that weren't on ancient aliens, but, regarding those same things like Machu Picchu or...
If you look at these rocks, Steve...
Egypt, the pyramids and shit, they've proven that with what they had available to them, in my mind anyhow, and I'm sure that, general society's mind, that they could have done that stuff with what they had available to them.
I think they could have done it with the stuff that they had available to them. It would have been a fucking horrid bitch to do it. I think that what you had said earlier might make a little more sense, that people were a lot more advanced than we give them credit for. Not so much smarter, but more advanced than we give them credit for.
Right. And that's what I'm meaning to say, not smarter, because you only become so smart as a human. You only use a certain percentage of your brain anyhow. So no matter how smart they were back in those days, if they didn't have the stuff that we have now, they couldn't do certain things, obviously. So, but that doesn't mean they couldn't make these marvelous, awesome, cool things that they probably did make. Now, sometimes I like to think that maybe they had a little bit of help, but there's just no, proof of that at this point. So,
yeah, I see some of the stuff like the underground chamber that they found in South America. I was trying to look up exactly where that was before the show, but I couldn't find that one. That one intrigued.
South America.
What's that?
South America. That's where it's at.
Yeah, it's in South America. I don't know where exactly,
Right.
but this underground temple. There's a spot you can stand in it, and if you speak in this one section of the temple, every other section of the temple will be able to hear you, and it's like 3 levels. And that's very interesting that they were able to create something like that at that time. And
Right.
there are other things that are interesting. They're interesting, but that's all they really are. The Nazca lines are fucking interesting.
I love the Nazca lines, and it boggles the mind to see how those people could have done something like that. But what did they have other to do than that?
Well,
they didn't have the computer to surf the net or
and
that kind of thing. So
I don't know. I don't want to be one of those theorists. I don't like to do that. I don't want to say it is this. I like to talk about it and think about what it could be. But with the Nazca lines, I don't fucking know. I look at the Nazca lines and I think crop circles.
right.
And I think, okay, there's definitely people that hoax crop circles.
Right.
And I've said this on the show before. If people think that that people in the past never bullshit, they have another thing fucking coming.
Right.
Like there's a reason there's a term called snake oil salesman.
Right.
I akin it to something that my father had told me when I was young, and he said that his father had told him that there was nothing new under the sun. And when you wrap your head around it, it's a pretty fascinating concept, and that everything that's here, it's always really been here.
Agreed. And I think a lot of what we're seeing can be attributed to lost knowledge more than anything else. We have lost the knowledge of how these things were done. But in the end, it turns out to be something actually a lot more down to earth than ancient aliens. Now, I'm not saying aliens haven't visited this planet. We don't have any proof that they have, but is it possible? Of course it's possible,
Okay, well, let's take it, because they make the stretch, that, hey, we see the same thing over here that we saw over here. It looks like there was a global thing going. Okay, so maybe there was. Maybe there was a civilization that was global like that rose and fell, and the people that remember it, the people that, that we're seeing the remnants of that from, just happened to be around and saw it. They're like the tribal people of our today, and there are still fucking tribal people out there that live in the fucking jungles, and they don't have access to the shit we have.
No, maybe, Chris, that, if we believe in evolution or whatever, people evolved at the same rate everywhere. And so the technology just happened to evolve the same way.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that are just too much alike, like the pyramid structures, a lot of the different artifacts and things like that have been found. I think that if there was anything, there was some type of a global, not so much a global society, but some akin to like what we have now.
Well, they have proven that, in those times, in ancient times, that people did travel a lot farther than we ever gave them credit for. I mean, they keep proving that all the time. There's arrowheads from Europe found on the east coast of the United States. How did they get there? That were developed in Europe originally, and something that is very similar and probably the same thing.
Well, I firmly, I totally think that Columbus Day is bullshit. When
Right.
when the Vikings probably were here a lot earlier. I guarantee they were here a lot earlier.
Right. And probably other cultures well before that. I mean, they even went, so I watched a documentary not that long ago that went on to say, that there was other cultures as far back as, the times of Jesus and even before that had come here. I mean, we have Native Americans. They got here somehow,
Yeah.
It could have been the Bering Land Bridge. It could have been ancient aliens. It could have been anything, but somebody was here well before Columbus. Columbus didn't discover shit. He just happened to stumble upon shit,
Yeah, and I mean, hey, I grew up celebrating fucking Columbus Day when I was young and everything, and I'm not for, like just fucking trashing the whole fucking thing, whatever. But let's face fucking facts. The dude didn't fucking discover America.
And if anybody did, it was obviously the Native Americans. But after that, if anybody did, it would have been the Vikings.
Right, and that's what after the Native Americans. However, the fuck they got here, you'd have to go the Vikings. But the thing is that there's so much revisionist history that goes on with things, and when a lot of these archaeologists find these older civilizations and it changes everything, a lot of them are unwilling to look at anything with an open mind. And that happens in a lot of fields where people are just so close-minded about how things are. And we resist change in a lot of ways. And I think that a lot of the stuff that's being found is very, very fucking interesting. It warrants debate and discussion, and people need to look into it. But do we need to be going, it's ancient aliens for sure, because we can't, wrap our heads around how it happened? No. Could it be? Sure.
Sure.
I will go out on a limb and say, could it have been? Sure. But is it the most likely scenario? No.
There are things. We have histories of, every culture, no matter where they were from, has histories of gods and things like that, and they always come from the stars. And so have we been visited? I don't know. Because you look at those stories, and they're all very similar, no matter what culture it is. Some have more than one god, some only have one, but you had the Native Americans who had all sorts of gods, and you had the Egyptians who had all sorts of gods, and then you had the Sumerians, the ancient Sumerians that had gods, and they all came from, outer space, for lack of a better term. So is that evidence of perhaps ancient aliens? I don't know, but I'd like to think that maybe it could be. Where did they get these stories? Or were they just made up stories to explain, things they didn't know?
Yeah. Who knows what any of it really was? We don't. None of us were there.
Yeah, but
we base, or not so much we're basing what we're saying based on what we see, what's presented to us. But they're making their assumptions based on things from thousands of years ago that most of it has to be translated. We don't even know if the translations are fully correct. It's like with the Bible, and I've had this issue with the Bible for a long time. It's not even more than likely translated properly. By and large, is a lot of the stuff, where it should be, probably, but it's translated poorly because no one speaks that language anymore. No one understands, that language is gone.
I think part of the reason the Bible itself is translated the way it is, now we have different versions like the New International Version and the Living Bible and the King James Version and all that, but it's translated the way it is because it's a certain agenda that made it that way. So even if I'm not
they should just release, if they want to get me back into the Bible, they should just release it as the Bible. 2.0.
But I'm saying it was translated in such a way, to
the Bible,
make it the way
uncut.
those people who translated it, those people who translated it wanted it to be. If you go back to the original Greek and Hebrew and whatever was, the Bible was actually written in those days, you'll find that a lot of what you read should not be translated the way it was. And so that's a revisionist history type thing. I mean, because meanings of words mean different things. You can have one word that means three different things depending on how you translate it.
Right.
So obviously, so like you said, with even the Sumerian texts and all that, it depends on how it's translated. So we could believe that the Sumerian texts say, yes, these aliens came down and gave us all this technology and the Anunnaki, and it could be way off base. We don't know.
Yeah. Everything could be off base. All of it could be off base to some degree. And more than likely, quite a bit of it's on base and on point.
Right.
But it's the fact that it is in some way poorly translated. That the tablets that talk about the Anunnaki. How the fuck do we know?
Right.
How the fuck do we really know? Can we?
It's a dead language that they have to reconstruct. And how do we know they're reconstructing it correctly? How do they know they're reconstructing it correctly?
Yeah, and it becomes this speculation game. And I understand that there's ways to do those things, and I get that. But to me, it's not anything that you can just point the finger and say it was definitely this, because there's too many options.
Right.
And
I totally agree there.
There are other options that are far more likely than aliens coming down and doing everything.
Well, according to ancient alien theorists, you and I are probably part alien. So there you go.
Hey, I'm sure that we are. Sure. Why not?
Scott Waring says Leonardo da Vinci was an alien hybrid.
No, Jesus.
Alien.
Are we going back to that fucking goddamn story?
That dude alien is so far off fucking base. I mean, I don't know if Scott Waring listens to our show. I'm going to guess he doesn't. But, dude, come on now. Just saying.
Oh, shit. God. But yeah, I don't know what it is with me lately where I just go upstairs and I start fucking watching this shit and it just gets me, and I like a lot of the stuff that they, where I'll get to see these places and these things where I can, at least take a look at them. I don't so much, I think, watch it anymore for what they're saying, albeit to maybe giggle at it. But
I used to be addicted to the show, and I'd watch every episode. And if it came on at 8:00 and it was a new episode, man, I was fucking there. I haven't watched it in a couple of years, and here's why: because they only present one side of the story, and it gets fucking tiring.
Well,
they might
why
say,
the fuck do you think it puts me to sleep, motherfucker?
Right. It just gets old. Now, they might say in the show, archaeologists claim that this is, but here's why they're wrong, because aliens did it. But they don't really give an explanation. I mean, sometimes, well, you might have had to have lasers to cut this certain thing, or how did they lift these 100-ton blocks up here and all that bullshit. But they don't really give you any real information in that show. And so, for me, I like it, but if it comes on, I'll watch it. But that's about it.
Yeah, and like I said, there's a lot of stuff that really intrigues me. The Band of Holes intrigues me. This thing that basically just goes on forever. It can be seen from fucking space.
Right.
How different things were put together and how they were made. yes, we do know that they could have been made with the stuff that was there, but I'm of the school that, I think maybe it was done a little differently than what we're thinking.
Well, I'm guessing that even archaeologists can't give you all the answers to how these things were done, and we know that because they've said, hey, we don't really know exactly how these things were done. So that opens the door to people like Tsoukalos and Childress and those types of people to, okay, because we don't really know, we can just say it's aliens and make a little bit of cash. I mean, it all comes from, I think it was Zachariah Stitchin originally came up with the ancient alien theory. And then that douchebag, Ben Doniken or Van Daniken or whatever his name is,
Eric
stole it all.
Daniken.
He basically stole that theory, and then he wrote books, and Tsoukalos is a big fan of that, and so is Childress, and so yeah, they're making a little bit of money off.
Tsoukalos is a big fan of hair product. That's what he's a big fan of. He's a big fan of hair product more than anything else. I would not want to know what he spends in fucking hair gel.
But basically, if you look into the ancient astronaut theory or those types of theories, they all come from Stitchin originally. I mean, there might have been theories like that before him, but he was the first to publish and all that, or whatever his name is.
Zachariah Stitchin.
And basically, if you believe all of it, Von Daniken stole all that. So now we're following a guy on Ancient Aliens because they used him a lot and his theories mostly, that stole all this shit. The guy's a fucking douchebag.
Steve, and if you can't pass the hair through the blocks, it had to be Ancient Aliens.
And I don't even think you're exaggerating your Childress. I think that's exactly spot on.
It's what he sounds like, the fucking jackass.
I know, he sounds like something stuck up his ass or something, and he... Everything's like a question, he never makes a statement. It's all a question, just the tone of his voice. It's like, the dude is hard to listen to. How he got on TV.
If he could just go,
It's like the parents from Snoopy or from Charlie Brown.
Pretty fucking much.
Wah, 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 wah.
And I want to be interested in the shit. I really do. And I guess I wish somebody could come along and give a really unbiased look at these things that isn't so much, I mean, I have no problem if people want to, like I said, to say it could be, or, it may have been. But to just say that because of this and this and this, it had to be. No, it didn't have to be anything. Because it's so far removed from where we are that we don't fucking know. Records weren't kept like they are now. And even with the records that we have now, if society fell tomorrow, it'd be gone.
A lot of it would be, yeah. I mean, they do back up and store things in the salt mines. And
right,
shit,
but it would just be, in a matter of no time, it would all be gone. And who would know later on down the line to go look in the fucking salt mines?
Right. What happens 2,000 years from now? English is a dead language, let's just assume. And they have to reconstruct our history. What's going to happen? It's going to be the same
Slip
thing
history?
we're seeing now.
Oh, God, let's hope not.
What if the Fortean Slip is all that remains? Oh my God, can you imagine? What a fucked up future that's going to be.
People were really ornery back then.
Well, I'm just saying, let's assume someday, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 6,000 years from now, English is a dead language. All the languages that we speak now are dead languages, basically like what we're basing all this ancient alien theory. And people have to reconstruct all this stuff from scratch, basically, because that's what we do when we look into history.
And they're talking about elixirs like Pepsi and Coke.
Right. And so, how did they build these tall buildings? They didn't have the technology because they might not know that we had the technology. Or, a lot of knowledge will be lost. Encyclopedias from 1963 aren't going to be around anymore. They'll be long gone. So what are they going to do? They're going to have to reconstruct our history. And so they may not know that from 1795 to 1873, we didn't have this, or, so it's going to be the way it is now with us looking back on these civilizations, because they're not going to know. And that's the way it is, because we don't know.
I think you're right. I think it could very well happen again. That where, our civilization falls and some pocket of civilization carries on, but they lose touch with that history over time and become, back to that non-technologically advanced human society where they can build houses and shit and they can get by and they know enough to do this and that, but over time they lose everything and they just fucking go back to living off the land.
I think that's a lot of what may have happened.
Yeah. It's a fucking damn good possibility. It's a damn good possibility.
Same people, same, race of people, same human, but stuff happens over time, and we know that. Well, like I
said earlier, though, Steve, they're constantly setting that date, of the civilization of man back. It keeps going back, and our technological advances have come in a blink. I mean, look at how fast everything came. From us living in fucking like log cabins and shit, and shitting outside to today.
Right, and that was what, a little over 100 years ago.
Yeah,
and that's a blink of an eye. And even up until, the 50s and 60s, people were still using outhouses because not everybody had indoor plumbing at those times. Now everybody does for the most part.
All it takes is a smart motherfucker.
But we know, if you go back in history, you were telling me the Sumerians had indoor plumbing, way back then. And then we lost that technology over the years.
Well, I'm not sure if they had indoor plumbing. They had plumbing of some sort. I can't remember.
I don't want to
go out. No, I don't want to say something that out of turn. I don't know if they had indoor plumbing. I can't remember.
Then you go. But then you go to the 1800s or the 1700s, and they're throwing shit out their window because they don't have plumbing.
Yeah,
onto the street. And what happened?
It's fucking. It's amazing to me that technology went poof. It just went poof.
Right.
And we see that. We know that. We talk about it all the fucking time as a race. Like, I'm constantly hearing about how technology is advancing at such a rate that, it's an amazing thing to us how faster or how much faster we're making our computers and how much technology just keeps doubling and doubling and doubling. But yet we can't wrap our heads around the idea that humans of yesteryear, let's call them, did the same fucking thing. Like, that's outside the fucking realm of possibility. I think that it is one of the possibilities and the more likely possibility.
Right, and I agree with you there. We hear about lost civilizations all the time, like Atlantis, for example, and they were supposed to have been very the T word, technological.
Right. I'm with you, Steve.
Technologically advanced. They were supposed to be this master race of people that knew everything and could do everything.
Everything was powered by crystals, Steve. They all spoke telepathically. They were amazing. They floated everywhere. Atlantis was great.
I think some of the Atlantean theories might have.
Atlantis was like pre-heaven. Like, everybody went to Atlantis first.
Let's assume that Atlantis was real, and it very well could have been. And this goes to that theory that humans at one time were probably far more advanced than we give them credit for. And so when we find things like that ancient computer or some bullshit like that, it was nothing to them. It just happens to be the only one. If I bury my laptop in the ground today, and 2,000 years from now somebody finds it, it probably would be the only one that still exists. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they're going to see this and say, how the fuck did they do this back then? So, and I think that's, like you said, way more likely a theory than ancient aliens. Now, ancient aliens could have come here.
And ancient aliens are cool. Fuck, Steve.
Right.
I want ancient aliens to be real. I want fucking big space battles to have happened over Earth, and I guess not. I mean, millions of people died, maybe, possibly. It's theory.
Possible. Maybe that's why we lost all the information.
But hey, I like that idea. That's the more fantastical idea. I mean, obviously, I'm talking about the shit. I watch the show. People will call me a fucking debunker or whatever. A closed-minded fuck. I'm very open-minded about the shit. I just, I have a realistic view when it comes to looking at this stuff. But I love it. I love sitting down and watching it. It's and the first time I watched that shit, fuck yeah. Damn Skippy.
Oh yeah, I agree.
But now it's I don't know, it's kind of it's obviously redundant because I've watched it so many times, but it's the idea that it's just so finalized. But I thought that we should talk about it because it's been, like I said, it's been on my mind because I've just been every fucking goddamn night. I can't break myself of the habit. So,
well, I get that way too. And when it first came out, man, I couldn't miss an episode until it wears on you after time, and you realize these guys are pretty much bullshit artists.
Well, they jumped the shark too with some stuff.
Well, yeah, they're advancing a certain theory. They know that theory isn't 100%, but no, we can blame a little bit of it on the producers and the editing, but obviously it's not all that. So
no, they're definitely trying to push an agenda.
Now, would I love to meet Giorgio Tsoukalos? Damn Skippy, man. I'd love to meet that
Only if he'd
dude.
let me touch his hair.
Right. David Childress, on the other hand, I don't know, man. I might have to. I don't think I can handle hanging out with him too long. But
I don't know. I think if To Catch a Predator was still on TV, that we'd probably see David Childress on it. Do you have any news, Steve?
I do have a disclaimer.
Uh-oh.
Statements made by the host of this show may not necessarily. I think I've had to make that disclaimer before. Yes, I got some news. Let's see. From abcnews.com. abcnews.go.com.
Ooh.
In fact. Yes. New Jersey twins born to different dads, so judge rules only one of them gets child support. A New Jersey father will have to pay to support only one twin after a judge found that twins have two different daddies. The ruling came after, it doesn't say daddies, but I like that word. The ruling came after, it says fathers. The ruling came after a woman asked for child support for her twins. However, according to documents, DNA testing determined the man originally cited as the children's father was actually only the biological father of one of them. Because of that, Passaic County Superior Court Judge Sohail Mohammed ruled in family court on May 4th that the unnamed defendant would have to pay child support for the twin he fathered, and he dismissed the unnamed mother's claim for support of the other child. Dr. Brooke Rossi, an obstetrician and gynecologist at University Hospital's McDonald's Women's Hospital in Cleveland, said while rare, having twins from different fathers can occur naturally. The phenomenon can occur when a woman produces 2 eggs during her fertility cycle instead of 1. This is like health class, Chris.
It is.
And they can become fertilized and implant within a few days of the same cycle. The sperm live in the genital tract for 2 days, Rossi said. It's possible a woman can have sex with a man on Tuesday and have sex with a different man on Wednesday, and it's possible for her to get pregnant with twins. Wonderful woman work.
This is my half
to you.
sister.
We're twins, but we're not really twins.
We came out of the same vagina at the same time, but I want you to understand, we have different fathers. How the fuck do you have that conversation?
How do you explain that to a child? How do you explain that to an adult?
Mommy liked dick. That's how
pretty
you
much all you
explain
can
it.
say in that situation. Anyway, so it's a really rare thing in slutty women, apparently.
Hey. Let's not.
I'm just saying.
Listen.
Well, maybe.
No. That's not necessarily a slutty woman. A woman who's likes dick. That's an okay thing.
Well,
I think that's a shitty stereotype for women to call women sluts because guys fuck like crazy.
Yeah,
that's fucking completely fine. If a woman wants to fucking spread her legs and take some dick, that's fucking great for me. Like, that's fine.
I never said that guys aren't.
That.
Well, I don't know. What's the male word for that? It's not slut.
No, it's called fucking high five. Is what it's been called for fucking years.
I'm not saying there aren't man sluts. Man sluts are, I'm not one.
I get your fucking point, asshole. I just think that it's...
There are man sluts. From KVOA.com.
But good for that guy that he only has to pay for one, because, that's all he got in... that's the only one.
Right, I get it. But, as a man, he's, I guess, I don't know.
What, he should step up and take care of the other one?
Well, if nobody else is.
Dude. No, seriously. Okay?
He's a man.
If a chick is trying to fuck you over, you don't want to, be taking care of her mistakes. No.
But I would have trouble if it were me in that situation. I would have trouble reconciling the fact that I'm only paying for one child and the other child is suffering because I'm not stepping up to the plate, even though it's not my kid.
I can be your hero, baby.
I can say this from experience. I paid child support at one time on children that weren't mine. I had adopted them at the time. So, that's where I come from. And so, I don't know.
No, for me, it's one of those things. I'm not fucking going to drop it. For me, it's one of those fucking things because, I was married and I have kids. And I've always said this, that it was a piss poor decision for me to get married. And I don't, it's not that I don't want my children or anything like that. I love my kids to pieces. But when I see stuff like this happen, where a woman is trying to take advantage of a guy for support, and I know what the state will do to that guy.
Oh, I absolutely know too. It's not pretty.
No, and that bothers me. So that's why I feel that way.
It's not pretty for the children either.
No, it's not. It's fucking shitty all the way around.
I want to make one statement. When I said I was paying child support for children who weren't mine, they were absolutely 100% totally mine because I had adopted them early in the marriage.
Right, but what you mean is genetically they weren't yours.
Genetically they weren't. But I had no problem. In fact, I had a lot of people try to tell me to fight it, and I wouldn't do it because they were my children. So that's where I come from. But I do agree that women tend to try to watch Maury for a couple days.
Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, no shit, right?
And that ain't that far from that show is not that far from the truth in the reality of the situation.
No, it just glorifies it. That's what it does.
And that's all. That's all it does. From KBOA.com. I think I'm finally ready. Paranormal fraud hunting. Paranormal fraud is haunting the town of Tombstone, Arizona.
Dun, dun, dun.
Tombstone. In Tombstone, an event planner supposedly tricked people out of thousands of bucks this past week in Tombstone. Carol Malone planned a weekend paranormal event called A Haunting of Tombstone from May 1st.
I want to go to this other place that I've never heard of.
It's one of those lost history things that, you know.
Did ancient aliens make it?
Yes. I can conclusively say that
it's a pop stand in the middle of nowhere.
From May 1st through May 3rd, tourists paid for tickets expecting a weekend of paranormal speakers, celebrities, and even a ghost tour. However, local business owners are claiming she skipped town without paying them and without having any event set up for the tourists.
Are you trying to tell me that somebody conned people out of fucking money?
And they used a paranormal weekend as the con because that never happens.
No.
We were counting on making this money. Other people that contacted us wanted to come here for the weekend, said Stacy Corbin, owner of Sister Paranormal Investigators. That's the name of the group, Sister Paranormal Investigators. We had to turn them away because we were booked. Now local business owners are worried it could harm their tourist town. I felt that our town had been cheated. We thrive on people coming to our town. This lady took money from so many people that could devastate Tombstone, said Corbin. Tombstone Marshall said Malone. They have a marshal still in Tombstone? That's cool. Said Malone was detained, but has since been released. They are now planning on passing the case to the state attorney general. And my favorite story of the week, and big news, Chris. Big news. From themirror.co.uk. Roswell slides. They were unveiled. UFO fans are left heartbroken by Area 58, one alien photo unveiling, which was an epic fail.
No. Didn't we? Wait a minute.
I think
Steve, didn't we?
That.
Didn't we do a show on this? Oh, wait. Yes, we did. And I think we said pretty much that it would be an epic fail. We are still batting 1,000 when it comes to the shit.
The two photographs of a dead alien, quote unquote, were unveiled at a big money event. Big money, really.
Big money, Steve. No whammies.
Big money event, and immediately dismissed as fake. A series of ufologists appeared at the Be Witness meeting to reveal images of an extraterrestrial who supposedly crashed to Earth during the infamous Roswell incident in 1947. The images were found by former journalist Adam Dew, who has taken steps to verify the pair of alien snaps, said Kodak expert had dated the film to 1947. The rest of the world.
I told you to release the photos.
The rest of the world has not had the chance to test the rigor of his methods because high-resolution images of the alien, get this, Chris, are not yet available.
Oh my goodness.
And get this, they are likely to be sold through his production company, Do Media, alongside a documentary about the discovery of the slides.
I think we've heard this story before.
Many times, Chris, many times. The photos were supposedly found in Arizona, hidden in the collection of snaps owned by oil geologist Bernard Ray and his wife, Hilda.
Bernard, why didn't you sell the alien photos?
Now, Chris, I'm done with that story. That is the news, but I want to add...
Shut the fuck up, you useless bitch!
A lot of people think this is actually a mummy, an Egyptian mummy at the Smithsonian. That it's actually a well-known one. I don't know if it's on display at this time, but it was back in the 40s. And it mysteriously looks a lot like that. But a lot of people are comparing this to the alien autopsy and Ray Santilli. The Ray Santilli, a lot of people are nicknamed.
No, Steve. Let's be honest with the people. A lot of people are comparing this to bullshit.
Basically, and that's what the alien autopsy ended up being. But in the alien autopsy, which was actually 20 years, I believe, to the date, earlier than this. So 20 years to the date, they release these slides that are supposed to be basically the same thing, the alien from Roswell. There was other coincidences too. The Scintilla alien was nicknamed Hilda, and that is Bernie's wife's name in here. So a lot of people think it's basically a rehashing of the alien autopsy thing, and I think that's probably a good bet. And obviously, he's doing a documentary on this bullshit and going to sell the pictures.
Money.
Now, were all these ufologists duped? I doubt it. Some of them had gotten out early, like Nick Redfern. I know he got out early. Richard Dolan, I think. Redfoot, yeah. Richard Dolan got out early, and there was a lot of outspoken critics against these slides well before they were ever released to the public. But anytime you have Jaime, good old Jaime Maussan or Musan or whatever his name is.
Listen, you can't say
Mexico,
that. Jesse Jackson got in trouble for saying Jaime Town.
Jaime is his name.
Oh.
Or Jamie, if you want to pronounce it the English way.
Oh, I just.
But anyway, anytime you have Jaime Maussan involved in something, I would kind of, and he's the one who organized this whole event, I would kind of, leave it be. And so that is my rant on the Roswell slides.
Lovely. This has been episode 75 of the Fortean Slip. If you like this shit, hit the like button. If you don't, hit the little thumbs down button. We really don't give a shit. Well, we do, but we don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we
not
don't.
That big of shit.
No, we do. I lean more towards we do. Leave a comment. Share this stuff around. If you haven't gone to the blog, theforteanslip.blogspot.com, please do so. Check out Dread Fun on YouTube at youtube.com/dreadfun. Watch some of his fucking artwork being done time lapse. Click on some of his ads, people. The man does great work.
Please do that.
Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there.